Welcome back, SBT fans. We are here for playoffs. Everyone that made it, congratulations, and everyone that didn't, better luck next time. There's always next season. So I'm here today with Tyler.
Hey guys.
And I'm here with Eagle.
Hey.
And I'm here with Gene as well.
Yeah. Hello.
And he'll be in the back. We're all just here talking. We have the admins in the chat. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start by talking about challengers, and then we're gonna move up to guardians, and then move to victors, and then conquerors in the end. So we're gonna look at each division bracket, and we're just gonna talk about how they look, how the matchups look, and we might give a prediction at the end of each matchup, just to see who's gonna end up on top. But what do you guys think about the Challengers division bracket there? Cammy obviously clinched that bye, and he went 9-1, I believe. So I don't see him losing in any round. But
almost went undefeated.
Almost went undefeated
last week. He came out last week, right?
Yeah, he ended up losing his last match. I think it was against who was it against? It was against George, right? Yeah, he lost 1-0 against George, and George made playoffs as well. He has to face Steph in the first round. So we can talk about that match if you want. Like Steph versus George.
Yep.
Did they fight at all during the regular season? Yeah. No. Steph actually won that match. It was week 4. Obviously, George has one of the best teams, so it might seem like a really tough matchup for Steph, but he ended up winning the first time around, so who knows though. George might be better at the rematches, but it looks like it is going to be a tough matchup for the both of them, because George obviously lost. But then if you end up losing the first time around, it kind of gives you more of an advantage to know what to prep for the second time coming around, as long as the teams haven't changed a bit. Kind of predict what the opponent's bringing. But what do you guys think about this first matchup in challengers? Who do you predict is going to come out on top?
George has been on kind of a hot streak lately, so it's going to be interesting to see him come in swinging into playoffs. And Steph, obviously, good coach. He's had a great season in his first season, so it's going to be a very good matchup to see.
Yeah, this is Steph's first season, by the way, and he's he's become one of the top coaches in challengers. So definitely a hard match for George. If I were to say anything, I'm gonna give it to George, just because, in my opinion, he's just more experienced. He has the better team. That's not to say like Steph isn't a great coach, but I think I'm leaning towards George on this one, and he ended up beating Cammy, who was the number 1, right?
Yeah, that is true. If I had to say, I'd say Steph is gonna clutch that win.
Steph. Eagle, what do you think? Who do you predict for this matchup?
I'll go the same Rozzy, man. I think with the momentum and rematch are always kind of, I don't know. I feel like when you win and then you go into playoffs with a rematch, it's kind of weird because you don't want to change up things too much, but then at the same time you felt like you brought the best team.
Yeah.
So I'm good with George in the rematch.
All right, we got 2 for George. Does Gene want to chime in, or was it okay just in the back?
For this one,
What's that?
I love George.
Yeah.
But that's what my boy Stefan, the master trainer.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
he's
so
gonna
we
come in and clutch it out. I think.
We got 2 for George, 2 for Steph, so it looks pretty even. I would say the matchup is pretty even actually, but I don't know. We'll have to see in this week coming up. The next match over is actually Tyler B versus Rozzy, and Tyler B was on a really good streak throughout the season. He basically was 6-0ing everyone in his path, and then I think throughout the last week, or the previous week prior, he ended up losing that match. But I think he has a really good team. Tyler B definitely has like a really strong regenerator core. Rozzy was really good. Like, I don't want to say nothing about Rozzy, but he did end up losing his last 2 matches, so I think like he kind of lost momentum in that sense. This is a really tough match to see because I kind of want to see both of these coaches promote, but only one of them can. And this is Rozzy's second time trying to promote to Guardians, and hopefully he doesn't get frozen this time. But what do you guys think?
I feel like Rozzy's gonna learn from his mistake from last time, and instead of turning it into a stall fest of 170 something turns, he's actually gonna bring some offense to try to get through Tyler B's team. So I'm gonna give Rozzy the edge on this one.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that, but at the same time, like, he could get frozen. I'm gonna call it right now. Let's see. What do you think, Eagle? What do you think for Tyler B against Rozzy?
I know I give the advantage to George previously for because of momentum, and I think I'll not get into details for the matchup because it might like end that strategies for the coaches, but I really like Tyler B's matchup.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Like, I'll not go into details about the matchup, but I like the Tyler's matchup. So
yeah, we shouldn't go into details. They did play obviously in the regular season, like Tyler said, but that ended up being what was it? 100 something turns, 170 something, and that was mainly because no one brought any offense, like Tyler said. I think this time around, if Rozzy's gonna not pull any punches this time, and I'm gonna actually vote for Rozzy winning this time around. So that just leaves Gene. What do you think? What are you thinking?
I think Rozzy's gonna win it.
Rozzy?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough matchup. Obviously, both of these two coaches are really good, and I mean, you know, Tyler B has the better record, but I don't know. It's hard to call for sure. Yeah. So what did we have? We had Tyler. Who did you vote on winning?
I had Rozzy.
So we all have Rozzy winning.
No, I have Tyler.
Oh, you have Tyler B. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did we talk about the playoff format today? Just to get to.
No, we didn't. So we can talk about it now, guys. The playoff format for this season, as you probably know, from the beginning of the season, we mentioned, it's going to be just single elimination, and whoever makes it to the second round of playoffs, you promote, obviously, and the top 7 coaches from the regular season, they make playoffs. Whoever makes the first seed gets auto promoted, and Eagle wanted to mention, I'll just say it for him, is that you still have a chance if there's a lot of drops the following season. You never know if you can get promoted that way, but for the sake of getting a guaranteed spot, you do have to win your first match in the division itself. The third matchup in challengers we can look at is Paco versus Delta, and I don't know what too much to say about Delta. From what I've seen, he's a good player because he really only joined in the last couple weeks, right? And he was taking up John's team, if I remember correctly, who had a pretty decent record when he left. But Paco himself has improved a lot. He made second seed, of course. And I just don't know. I don't know what to say about this one. I might, just for the sake of it, for jumping on the bandwagon, I'll go and say Paco is my vote. What do you have to say, Tyler?
I'm definitely gonna go with Paco on this one. He's been dominant. He's been dominant throughout the season, and he's gonna be hard to deal with in playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Like, he went. I think at one point he had like 2 back-to-back 6-0s. And he's constantly improving, which is good. He's been in a lot of tours recently, yeah, it's kind of hard to pick Delta over. I'm sure Delta is a great coach in his own right. I just haven't seen him really play. What do you think, Eagle, about this matchup?
It looks like I'm always picking the other side there, but and I know Paco's on a good form right now. But again, in terms of matchup, to me, as I like Delta matchup.
Delta's matchup is okay. All right, so we have.
Well, I don't know. Looking at that, I don't know.
It's tough for sure. Like it's a tough call.
It's a tough one actually. Never mind.
All right, well.
I don't know. I'll still go with Delta though. I
Delta.
feel like there's a couple of things that I like on this team that I think can handle Paco's.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll go with Delta.
Paco obviously has like a sand-based kind of draft, and then he has he has Manaphy as a late game cleaner as well. So he has a lot of good options and opportunities to like stall out Delta's squad. But Delta of course has a pretty decent team as well. But okay, so then that's 2 for Paco, I guess, and 1 for Delta. Let's see who ends up on top there, and of course. The lowest seed remaining from these 6 coaches ends up playing the number 1 seed in Cami, and I'm pretty sure if it's not going to be Delta, it's going to be Rozzy or George, and if if the lower seeds don't end up winning at all, then it either becomes Tyler B or Steph. And I think Tyler B can never face Cami in the second round because he's 3rd seed. So, it would either come down to Delta, Rozzy, Steph, or George to face Cami in the first round. If you guys weren't aware already, the second round is reseeded for this season, and the first seed ends up playing the lowest seed, and then obviously the second match is reseeded as well. But that's just going to be how it works there. Who do you think is going to end up winning it all for challengers? Tyler, what are you thinking?
It's a tough choice, but my prediction, I'm gonna have to go with Rozzy.
Rozzy, you think he's gonna?
He was on a tear last season, and he's gonna make up for it this season.
I could see that happening. Rozzy, I think he needs redemption for last season. He went pretty close to getting promoted, and now he's it's looking pretty tough. He didn't make the first seed, so he has to kind of fight his way in. And if he gets through Tyler B, it's going to be an upset for sure. Tyler B has also been running through the division. It's really tough to see those two paired up because I kind of want both of them promoted, but only one can. Eagle, what do you think on who is probably going to end up on top throughout the entire bracket?
I'll go with the safe option in Cami.
Cami, yeah. It's pretty safe.
It's pretty safe because I feel like we all know that the game's often so it's not always there's still involved. There's also a lot of other things involved as well. So, but he played really, really well. He's very consistent. I like how he played this season, and I think it's the safest option. He played very well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you watch his games.
First round as well, so he only has 2 matches left to win. And,
yeah. So, I mean, obviously, in the chat, Cammy's been saying, he's not that great at playoffs, but I still see like whenever you watch his matches, whenever you watch his games, he is very confident in every single play he makes. He either lets something intentionally drop so that something else can come in and set up, or he makes very good plays. He reads his opponent. I just think he's I think he's gonna win the entire bracket. So that's gonna be my prediction.
I like how he's aware of his win counts as well, and
I
think that's going to be very helpful, especially in playoffs. Can't be making, just the right play is not always, what it feels like the right play is not always necessarily the right play. Not just only switching on what seems to be obvious, also knowing what your win counts are and when to sit out.
it might be obvious to like your opponent what you're doing, but in your head, you're doing what you need to preserve your win con in the late game. And I think Cammy is a great example of that when you watch his games. So yeah, I'm gonna say Cammy as well. Like I really want to say Rozzy, but just watching Cammy and throughout this entire season, like he almost went undefeated. I'm gonna have to go with him. Alright, so that's challengers, guys. We talked about each matchup in depth, in great depth. We can move up to Guardians, and hopefully we don't spend too long on each division. But we can look at the bracket. Obviously, Rin made the first seed, so congrats to him. We're glad that he came back for this season. He was obviously off for the last season and a season prior, I think. He made the number 1 seed, and he gets to sit this week off, which is really nice. He probably gets to build for his predicted matchup. But we have Wavali versus X Gamer for that first match, and we have Gryon versus Quality, the second one, and Swampy versus Nathan for the last one there. Now, when you look at Swampy versus Nathan, guys, did they end up playing during the regular season? I don't actually remember if they did. Because if they didn't, it would be a fresh game, and both of them can go in there kind of, pretty confident.
I don't think they did actually.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through trying to see.
They didn't play this season yet, so it's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup because, like we've all seen Swampy go through, changes through Conquerors. He's dropped the Victors, and then now in Guardians, and he always seems to end the season off, with a couple of wins. So Swampy, in his own right, is just a very good player. But Nathan, coming from Challengers last season, I think he almost went undefeated himself. He went like 10-1, and this season, obviously has been a little bit harder for him. I think his resulting season when he went 6-4. So it's going to be a close matchup, I think, for sure. Like both of them ended up 6-4, so either way, I think it's going to be a good match. Who do you have? Who do you think, Tyler, is going to come out on top for that one?
I'm going to go with Swampy on this one.
Swampy?
He's been on a tear this season, and he's looking to get back up, so he's motivated to get that win.
I can see that for sure, yeah. Swampy definitely, he has, in my opinion, he definitely has the stronger team. I do like Nathan's core, Nathan's offensive core with Mawile and Slowbro and Dragonite in the late game. He normally likes to use those and clutch out the wins. But what about you, Eagle? What do you think for this matchup per se?
I like. It's not a tough one. I feel like both have really good teams. Actually, looking at them right now for the not for the but just for looking at them. I'm gonna go with we've seen how Slowking and Mega or Slow Roll Mega Mall from that core. This season, and I think we've seen it. Slowking and Slow Roll supporting all the time and them all while. So we've seen the outside that is this season. I'm gonna go with Swampy.
Yeah, Swampy as well.
I think he's gonna be motivated as well to go back up. He's one of those guys that he had a bad season last season, but usually he's he has strong records. I think he's gonna be
yeah. Normally, you're right. Normally, Swampy ends up making those very strong plays that can cause him to win the match. Which that's just Swampy for you. I think he likes to shine when it comes to coaches that like Nathan. If he plays a really good opponent, I feel like he kind of shines in this moment there because he gets to prove himself. And Nathan definitely one of those coaches that he's not mediocre by any means, and he's trying to climb up to the higher ranks. But Nathan definitely the underdog, I think, in this matchup. But I'm gonna be fair. no matter how much I like Swampy and I love his team, I think I'm actually going to go with Nathan on this one. Like he's definitely even though he hasn't been as consistent throughout his matches, he's just a really interesting coach, and he likes to read his opponent a lot, which I noticed throughout his matches. And we did actually rate Nathan pretty low in the initial PRs, like when we were rating his team. But it seemed to work out for him in the end, and he has a really powerful core. So I'm gonna go with Nathan on this one. So we have 2 for Swampy and 1 for Nathan. And the next matchup we have obviously is Gryon versus Quality Content. And what do you guys think about this matchup in particular? Like, Gryon has his rain team obviously, and Quality loves using very interesting sets, and he makes very powerful plays. But Gryon, I think he has a really strong core, and he's been doing well. He obviously made the 3rd seed, and he did a really good job climbing up the standings this season. He made it 7-3, and Quality made it 6-4. But Tyler, what do you think this matchup per se?
I'm gonna go with Gryon on this one, because he's been having a really good season, and his rank team just seems too much for QQ's team to handle. QQ's had a great season, to be fair, but I just think Gryon is gonna take this one.
Yeah. Obviously, having that powerful rain core, like his entire draft was pretty much just decked out to be like a rain kind of team, which is really powerful for a lot of drafts to kind of handle, especially when he has things like Mega Swampert and Fairthorn and like Zapdos for one. Like Zapdos became so buffed after the DLC. So I'm not going to say anything in particular about what is going to be coming, but just looking at the matchup, I'm going to have to agree with you actually, Tyler. I'm going to go with Gryon on this one as well. His team is just very powerful, and I think he might actually just come out with the win on this. But do you guys know if they played throughout the season? Before I ask Eagle what his prediction is going to be. I'm not sure if they did or not, but no, so it doesn't look like they actually faced off this season, which is going to be interesting as well, because so far the 2 matches in Guardians that we've looked over, both coaches haven't faced off for the season, so it's going to be a fresh match for the 2 of them. Eagle, what do you think about this matchup? What do you think?
Like, there's a couple of mons I think on Quality Content's team that are going to be very solid. Overall, I would give the matchup to Gry, but there's a couple mons that are going to be tough to handle, I think, for him still.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be an easier game for Gry. I think if Quality Content can make the right plays, I think he's gonna win this. But I think it's an easier matchup for Gry.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Gry on there, because I feel like in this matchup, Quality's gonna have to mix some aggressive plays at times. I feel like if he can make those correctly, he's gonna put himself in a very good position to get like offensive momentum. But otherwise, the thing is, it's not. He's gonna have to maybe make those plays, but we'll see. I guess we'll be.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm gonna go with one as well with the Easter game.
Yeah, I agree with you that Gry, he definitely has the easier like prep time. Like when it comes to prepping, it's probably easier for him to prep for Gry, for Quality than Quality is to prep for Gry. And like you said, like if Quality makes those very aggressive doubles or plays, he could obviously get into the right position.
And if you can find the right sets, I think he'll have a good shot.
Yes, exactly. So I guess what do we have? We have 2 for Gry, or 3 for Gry?
3 for Gry, yeah.
3 for Gry. Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the other way.
Yes, yeah. I mean, quality. He's proven to be a really strong coach throughout the entire season. Of course, he made playoffs, so you never know. But moving up to the next matchup, we have Wavali versus X Gamer, and of course, X Gamer. He joined us very late in the season, I believe. So he's only played like maybe 3-4 matches. 3 of which I believe he actually came out on top. So, out of the 4 matches that he played, he destroyed his opponents. But he ends up playing Wavali, which once again, the 3 matches it looks like in Guardians bracket, none of them had played each other throughout the regular season. So it's going to be a really entertaining. It's going to be a really entertaining round 1 for Guardians as well. And Wavali, he was almost clinched for that first round bye, dropping to 2nd seed. It kind of hurts him a little bit, but Wavali just a very strong coach in general. And if I was gonna give the edge to anyone, it would be him. But X Gamer, he also just came in and he wasn't playing any games. He ended up winning most of his matches, and of course the last match he couldn't play it out. But even then, I'm still thinking he would have really tried throughout that game. So, what do you think, Tyler? What do you think about this matchup in particular?
I'm gonna call it right now. I think that whoever wins that match is gonna go on to win the Guardians bracket.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
But if I had to say one, I'm probably gonna go with my boy Wavali.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to call it, right? Because Wavali, he's just been a strong presence throughout the entire season with his Mega Gallade. Just grabbing, I think the end result was 25 kills for his Mega Gallade.
It's 26. I'm looking at it right now.
That's the entire league, right? Wait,
No,
you said?
this is roster. He's got 26 kills.
Oh, 26 kills. Yeah, 26 kills and 4 deaths throughout the entire season, which is pretty insane. I've never really seen someone use Mega Gallade so properly. It just makes sense, right? You wear down your opponent's team, you make sure everything that's not scarfed is damaged or is taken out to the point where Gallade comes in and kind of just sweeps like that. But he's been using it very effectively, and I commend him for that, because he made the top seed throughout most of the season. In fact, throughout PRs, we kind of had him at number 1, but dropping to number 2 is also okay. It doesn't mean that he gets the first round bye, but he has a really tough opponent coming up. What do you think, Eagle, when it comes to Wavali versus X Gamer?
It's always hard to go against someone who's been using him on that well during the entire season. He's been using his team very well, but I think X Gamer can handle that. We'll see. What he plays, but I think he can handle Wavali's team, and I don't know. I like the fact that he's a newcomer. He's going in, someone who the guys didn't see before. And I think he has a good matchup. I think he comes in with momentum as well. It didn't see much. We didn't see his. I'll go with X Gamer since he's the newcomer, and I think he's got actually a good matchup against Wavali's team. So
yeah, okay, that's fair. So we have 1 for Wavali, 1 for X Gamer. Now, for me, I want to go with the obvious choice is Wavali. I think that it's just very much in his favor, I think, because just of how well he's been using his team, and he's used this particular team throughout the entire season. So he knows the ins and outs of his team. Whereas X Gamer coming in, yes, he has momentum because he's played a couple matches, but he hasn't gotten too used to his team yet. So I feel like with that kind of ideology, Wavali kind of has an edge. But I think even in chat, he was saying, he really wanted to make first seed because otherwise, in playoffs, he might choke. But as much as I want to go with X Gamer, I'm gonna go with Wavali on this one. He's been a really strong influencer throughout the entire season. So looks like we end up with 2 for Wavali and 1 for X Gamer. And of course, whoever wins, moves on and gets promoted. But I feel like yeah, it's either gonna be X Gamer, quality content, or Swampy or Nathan to face Rin in the next round. And Rin, of course, just chilling. He gets to sit out for this week, right? So, who do you guys think is gonna win the entire thing? I know Tyler, you already said whoever wins the Will Valley versus X Gamer match is gonna go on to just win the entire thing. Eagle, what do you think?
That being said, I'm gonna go with Valley, but if for some reason X Gamer beats with Valley, which could happen because they're both great coaches, but yeah, whoever wins that match is gonna take it all, I think.
Yeah. And Eagle, what do you think?
Honestly, I think I'm gonna go with I know I went with the obvious last time around, but I'm gonna go with Swampy actually.
Swampy, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah, because we've been talking about we're about we didn't talk about Swampy he's incredibly good with his Mega Gyarados.
Mm-hmm.
And that mod alone, you have to prep you have to prep really hard for Mega Gyarados every single game because that thing is it's so scary when it sets up, so bulky, and
it's even scarier.
It's really hard to Oko, so when it gets up for Dragon Dance, you better have a fast Scarf or some priority.
You also have to have like a really strong defensive wall to come in. Like if it doesn't wall Mega Gyarados, it's over, because if that thing gets a flinch on you, it's gonna run house on you, because he has to rely on waterfall a lot of the time, and it'll just flinch you out, and it gets annoying kind of. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a really strong force. So I think you're right. Yeah, we're missing the fact that his Mega Gyarados did get a few kills on the standings, right? I think it came out to be the second. The second.
Yeah, he got 15 kills with it.
Yeah, 15 kills, 7 deaths. So that's a really commendable achievement for Swampy there. So that's nice. Yeah, Swampy might end up winning the entire thing. That would be interesting. For me personally, I think I'm gonna go with Rin. Like Rin, he was he came back after leaving draft for a little bit, but he came back and clinched the number 1 spot, and he's sitting really high up on the standings now. So and he has a really good team. I feel like he knows how to use that Mega Gardevoir, which which also made the kill leaders, but not as prominent as the Gallade or Gyarados from Swampy and Will Valley. But Rin, I think he might come out with the win for Guardians. So we'll just have to see. Of course, it's going to be a really interesting couple weeks, because these coaches, they haven't faced each other yet, and whoever becomes the lowest seed gets to face Rin as well. So that's going to wrap up Guardians, right? We're going to move up to our Victors bracket. And we have a lot of really good coaches in Victors this time around. Obviously, you see PZZ sitting up there at number 1, like he's been throughout most of the season. Him and Miles kind of just bouncing back and forth throughout who's going to be number 1. But, and Ampha too. Ampha was also sitting at number 1 for a while. PZZ gets to sit out. He's done enough. He made number 1, and I think he's going to be a really powerful force throughout the rest of the playoff division. But we have our 3 matches for Victors, being the first one being Pierre versus Aaron the Baron, and the next one being Miles versus Raven, and then the last one being Rizzo versus Ampa. Now, if we just look at these 3 matches, they're really, really good. I have a feeling that these matches are going to be an incredible watch. Rizzo versus Ampa we can talk about first, and I do actually think that they played off during the regular season, and if I were to recall properly, I think Ampa came out with the win. I think it came down really close, if I remember correctly. It came down to it was a 3-0. It was a 3-0 for Ampa, but the fact that they played, and I still think it came down pretty close, but I'm not sure exactly, because Riss really likes to bring some really strong some really strong sets, like non-anticipated sets. He's brought screens a lot throughout the season, and him facing off against Ampa, who was pretty much number one throughout most of the season, it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. But Tyler, what do you think about this matchup in particular here?
Honestly, Amfa has been very surprising this season. He didn't have the best of tryouts, but I know he didn't really have a good matchup. So we decided to try him out in B, and he's proved himself pretty well. But Riss coming down from A, having a spectacular season, going 7-3. I'm gonna have to give Riss the edge on this one.
Riss, yeah, definitely for sure. Like Riss coming down from A, and he already had a taste of what it felt like to be in that division up there. But he's been on a tear, like you said. He definitely has shown, like, even when he was in Guardians like 2 seasons ago, he basically clutched out number 1. If Caitlyn wasn't sitting at number 1, he definitely would have been. So Riss always sitting at the top of the division, which is always good. So it is really hard to tell, of course, because like you said, Ampa has had a really good season, and it's just hard to tell. But Eagle, what do you think on this matchup per se?
I think. Well, I mean, they've both been. Again, we've been winning towards the end of the season, so momentum. Honestly, it's a really tough one for me.
Yeah.
I like Ampa's matchup a little bit more, but then again, I think this in a rematch is gonna help him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Ampa on this one. I think I like the matchup.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's gonna be. I'm gonna go. So I'll go. I won't put it on this one.
Okay, so you're going for Ampa. Like, when we rated each team, Ampa was sitting at the top. Like his team was just the best drafted in most of our opinions. He has an incredible regenerator core. His offense is insane, and that kind of mentality kind of brought him up to just always sit at the number 1 spot. Riss, of course, has just been trailing behind, but he has a really strong team as well, with Dragapult, Mega Gardevoir. I think both of these two actually really deserve to get promoted, in my opinion. But I think I'm gonna go with Riss on this one as well. I'm gonna call it right there. Like, Riss. I think he's just very, very experienced, especially when it comes to SBT. He's been in SBT for about 3 seasons now. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Riss is gonna come out on top with this one. Like, if both of these two could get promoted, Conquerors the next season would be really, really strong. But yeah, I think we concluded that it's gonna be 2 for Riss and 1 for Ampa. So we can move up to the next matchup then. We have
Well, shout out to WPF for the second.
Oh yeah. WPF, pogs to them. Shout out. If you want, we're gonna post a Discord link for WPF if they allow us, of course. And everyone join there. But next up, we have the Miles versus Raven match. These two, two of our favorite mods, of course, and they really glowed up during this season, especially Miles. Miles, who almost ended up being the number 1 seed. I think because they faced off in their last week. I think it was their last week. They
literally just played.
Yeah, both of them just played a couple days ago. But obviously Raven ended up on top on that one, and they have to do a rematch. So I don't know if Miles was anticipating facing him first round in playoffs, but I don't know. Like, if they didn't end up bringing their proper sets for this match coming up, it's going to be a really good match because you just don't know what to expect, especially with Raven being very unpredictable. I think he might change up a lot of what he's going to bring, whereas Miles, I feel like Miles kind of just brought like the strongest team he could bring. But either way, I think this is going to be a really good match. And if I were to decide, I think I'm going to go with Raven on this one. It's not just because like Raven already beat Miles in the regular season, but Raven just has a way of becoming very unpredictable and reading his opponents to the point where he kind of just backs them into a corner, and I think that sort of play style is kind of hard for Miles to bounce around. What do you think, Tyler? What do you think about this matchup in particular here?
Based on that previous match that literally just happened, I'm gonna have to say Raven is gonna come out on top because watching that match, Raven was literally in control the entire time, and he literally only needed a win to clinch playoffs. So he made it look so easy by literally just sacking Mons and not even having to predict, and he literally just made sure he kept that W in the bag. And if he would have actually played around it, he probably could have saved a few diff, but he only needed the win. So I feel like Raven made it look so easy that he's just going to take it in playoffs as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a rematch, and some coaches are better at doing the rematch than others. Like, I know personally for me, like, I'm not that great at rematches, but I have a feeling, Raven is just really good. But Miles, of course, like Miles being a veteran in B League, he might have an edge as well. But Eagle, what do you think about this matchup here?
Okay. Yeah, I think Ravens. I think it's gonna be the fact that it went well. I think that it's not gonna go. I think that's gonna help Miles a lot. It's gonna be easier for him to improve on his last game and see what he can change for the playoffs.
Yeah, like you said, I know you're a big believer in whoever loses actually has more of an advantage because you get to see your opponent's full sets a lot and what you lost to, and that can help you prep in not losing to that next time. But like in my opinion, Raven is very easy to just switch up his prep. Like I have a feeling like he's going to use his team in a completely different way. But what do you think? Did you conclude that Miles was gonna? You think Miles is gonna win this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for Miles.
Miles this one? Okay. So we got 2 for Raven, 1 for Miles. And again, like I said for the last match, I think these two, they both deserve to get promoted. I think everyone in that made playoffs in B, or Victors rather, they deserve to get promoted. But of course, only 4 of the 7 get promoted. So with that said, hopefully these two they prep their best and they have a good match, and only one of them can promote, but we'll have to see. Moving up to the next match is Pierre versus Aaron the Baron, and this match in particular, I don't know if it actually happened in the regular season. It might have though, but I know Pierre in general, he hasn't been able to play his last few matches, so I'm just looking to see if they actually played the regular season. Oh, they did. And it looks like Pierre came out with a 3-0 on that one. Of course, both of these two are really good coaches. Pierre, coming from WPF, in my opinion, a really good coach, and Aaron the Baron coming out from Coliseum, who's been performing really well as well. So these two, it's going to be a really good match. And Tyler, what do you have to say on this one?
I feel like Pierre is going to come out on top.
Yeah.
It's tough to say because Pierre, Pierre hasn't played in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is very tough on someone, on a coach, having that much time off and coming back to the same squad. And I just feel like it's going to put him at a bit of a disadvantage, but I feel like Pierre has a better matchup and is going to take it.
He still has Rain, which is also a really good factor if he wants to use that in his end game. But Pierre is very unfortunate. And it's not even his fault. He just didn't get to play out his last 4 matches because they've all just been forfeits. And good on him for still making playoffs even after that. He actually clutched out the second seed, which is still very impressive to me. Aaron, of course, also a really good coach in his own right. And I don't know, he has been playing his matches, which is good. Like you said, it kind of makes Pierre lose that edge because he hasn't been using his team. Eagle, what do you think on this match and just the situation they're in?
Well, I think it can be, it can be sometimes a blessing to not play for a while. Sometimes just to clear your head and come up with, because if you play every week, sometimes you get stuck in brains that's you're comfortable. I think having a break sometimes can help you, but at the same time, it can also injure you in the fact that you didn't play as much with your team. I think it's gonna play a bigger role than I don't know. I think it's gonna actually hurt him not play those games. So I'm gonna go with solely on that. I'll go with Aaron, but I like a little bit. I like the matchup for Pierre, so that's why I'm not quite sure, but I'll go with Aaron.
Okay. Yeah, so we have another one. Well, actually, Tyler went for Pierre and he went for Aaron. And I can see what you're saying. Like clearing your mind, not playing too often, kind of gets you out of that funk, because a lot of the times you end up bringing a lot of the same sets throughout most weeks because you get comfortable in that zone. You want to test out one Pokemon, but bringing the same set kind of helps you because it just does well. Like your team is kind of modified to the point where this specific set helps another Pokemon win the match, so they just end up bringing the same sets. But when you're not constantly playing, you might have another set in mind that you wanted to test out. Like he probably hasn't even gotten to use like everything he wanted to use throughout the season, so he's kind of in more of a sense might actually be a disadvantage because he didn't get to use some of the some of the mons that he wanted to, or didn't run some of the sets that he was planning on using. So in my mind, it's either Pierre might end up being at a disadvantage because he hasn't been using his team, or it could be very useful because Aaron hasn't seen some of the sets that he might, if he's scouting out some of Pierre's matches, he won't be able to see a lot of the sets that he might potentially bring against him. So it's pretty hard to tell, but I think I'm gonna go with Pierre on this one. It's kind of hard to tell exactly, like we were talking about, but I think we have 2 for Pierre on this one, and then 1 for Aaron. All right, so that's the 3 matches for round 1, and of course anyone that wins out for the lowest seed, the reseeding gets changed up so that PZZ gets to face the next match, and he's been a monster throughout the season too. But with that, we can wrap up Victors and move up to our final division in A, which was rebranded to Conqueror's Bracket. And last minute changes. Throughout most of the season, we were looking at a very tight season, and a lot of the coaches, we didn't actually know who's going to make playoffs for a lot of the time. Like the middle portion was pretty much, really close. A lot of them had the same record, and of course we did have to try to sort out a 3-way tie who we had with Skyquake, Beater, and Slick. And of course, Slick, Panther, we're very sorry for you didn't make playoffs. You obviously did end up with a really good record, but Beater and Sky end up lucking out and making playoffs this time around. But when we look at these couple of matches, these 3 matches here, we have me sitting at the first round bye, which I'm very grateful for, so I don't have to play this week, because the 3 matches are going to be really strong. It looks like we have Eagle, who's in the call with us, facing off against Beater, and then we have Toxic against Sky, and then we have Simi versus Zayn. And speaking of Simi versus Zayn, we can talk about that matchup right now. Of course they ended up playing their they played in their final week as well. So they just ended up playing, and I believe Zayn ended up winning that match. So I don't know if Simi anticipated, he was gonna play Zayn again in the first round of playoffs, but it's a rematch, and I think both of them kind of went all out. I don't know for sure, but maybe they have something else up their sleeve. But two very strong coaches, and of course, Simi ended up. I think Simi was on a really good win streak for the end of the season. He went pretty much undefeated into the final week. So, what do you think, Tyler? Simi versus Zayn. What do you think on this matchup here?
It's gonna be an interesting matchup, especially since Zayn just won. I feel like Simi's gonna have the edge because he's gonna know pretty much what Zayn has to bring, and I feel like Zayn's team is pretty easy to guess what he brings.
Mm-hmm.
From at least when I played, I literally nailed the 6 he was gonna bring, and it was pretty easy. Like, I feel like his team pretty much has one purpose, and you know what it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Simi might have an advantage on that going into playoffs.
Yeah. So, Simi's team is very diverse when it comes to if he wants to switch up what he needs to. He doesn't always need to bring his standard cores. Like, his entire team is just very, very nice. So you think Simi might end up coming out with that win? Tyler?
Yeah, I'm gonna give Simi the edge.
Simi? Okay. All right, Eagle, what do you think on this Simi versus Zayn match here?
In terms of matchup, I like Simi.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he has a whale, so
Yeah, exactly.
point for that.
Did he even bring that once? I don't think so.
I don't know, but still, I like it. But I like Zayn's play, Rozzy. I think I like his play during the season. I think it's gonna translate well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was like I didn't join us know about it. I was really impressed with it. I'm gonna put him.
You're gonna go with Zayn on this one?
I'm gonna go with Zayn in the playoffs.
Yeah?
Against City.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll go with Zayn over City.
You're gonna go with Zayn on this one, okay? And I agree with you. Like, Zayn has really good plays. Like, I think his prep is actually, I think he preps a lot better than he plays, in my opinion. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. You can, a coach can be a really good prepper, and then their battler. If their prep matches they're battling, then they're obviously a good player. But I think either or, a coach can be really good at battling and lackluster in building. But I'm going to say that Zayn is really good at prepping in his matches. Simi, I believe, is the opposite. I believe he's just really good at playing. Of course, he brings like really off the wall kind of sets. He ends up bringing really unpredictable stuff that it's kind of hard to prep for. So in that sense, like, with Simi having both of those to his advantage, like, it kind of makes it seem like he has an edge over Zayn. But like we just mentioned, in his week 10 match, his final week, Zayn ended up coming out with the win. So it's kind of tough to exactly use that math to kind of figure out who comes out with the win. But I think I'm gonna go with Simi on this one as well. Simi, just a very good coach. I believe throughout the entirety of his SBT career, he's always made playoffs. So he's just a veteran in SBT playoffs when it comes to making round 1 or round 2. So I'm gonna go with Simi on this one. So I think we had 2 for Simi and 1 for Zayn. Yeah. So the next match we can talk about is the Toxic versus Skyquake match. So I don't actually know if they ended up playing. It's nice to know if they ended up playing during the regular season, because it kind of helps us dictate who ends up coming out with the better matchup throughout playoffs. But it looks like they did end up playing, and Sky ended up actually winning that one. Now we all know how good both of these coaches are, and if I were to say who's the better coach, it's tough to say really, because obviously Sky ended up winning that match. Toxic, just a very strong coach coming in on his first season, and he's coming in from a lot of really well-known leagues. He's also been doing really well in his Trick House tour, so I hope he goes all the way. But Tyler, what do you think, actually, before I say anything else? Like, what do you think on this matchup here?
From this season alone, I'm actually gonna have to go with Skyquake.
Yeah.
Because Skyquake had a really bad start to the season, and lately he's really been on a tear, and he's really made that comeback happen, which is very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I can recall, every time I've heard about Toxic and Skyquake facing in playoffs, Skyquake actually came out on top. So.
Ooh, okay. So it's looking like those kind of matches. I think Toxic is probably dreading facing Sky first round as well. But I have a feeling he has a few things up his sleeve. And you're right, Sky actually, he did have a very rough start to the season, and somehow he still ended up clutching playoffs. Even with how close it came, like if you even lose one match, it kind of forced you out of playoffs. Eagle, what do you think on this matchup as well?
Yeah, I mean, Sky's been has been with us here for a long time. He's been so good as well for such a long time. But even with that, I think it was I'm gonna go with Toxic. He's been so good, Toxic, this season.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's always, I think he's been a good battler for a while. Like you guys talked about, he's been a couple leagues here and there. But again, I talked about the Slowking Mega Mobile core earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna be a good core again. It's gonna keep being good in playoffs. And he's been just playing so well, so consistently. He's been always so good, and I think he's on to win against Sky.
Yeah. All right, so we have another one for Toxic there. I agree with you. Toxic, his team is very powerful. Like when you look at it firsthand, like you see Hydreigon, you see Mega Mawile, you see a lot of things that you can potentially try to take advantage of. But because of how Toxic plays and his playstyle, he's very aggressive when it comes to reading his opponent, and I really enjoy watching his matches because of that. Now, when it came to him versus Sky, I believe Sky obviously had the better prep and the better matchup. But I believe when we came out of post draft, Sky actually had the #1 ranked team, and of course,
yeah, that's right.
It didn't translate throughout the beginning of the season, and then he kind of came back. He kind of had to force his way back into playoffs, which he made it. So the matchup that way kind of seems like it might be more in Sky's favor, but I'm gonna go ahead and agree with Eagle and say Toxic might come out with the win on this one. He did end up losing during the regular season, but he might actually just be better at those rematches. And I know I heard what you said, Tyler. Whenever it came to Toxic versus Sky in playoffs, it always came down to Sky winning that. But who knows? It could be an upset this time around, and Toxic might come out with the win. So I'm really interested to see who comes out this time around. But I'm gonna go with Toxic. I think I think he'll do well this time. So we have one more match to talk about, and we can wrap up in Conkers, and that's gonna be Eagle's match. Eagle versus Beater, and for the sake of keeping bias out, I guess we can leave Eagle's vote out unless he wants to vote for himself. I don't know.
I'm not gonna vote for myself.
You're not gonna vote for yourself. Okay, well, we could talk about it anyways. Eagle, you've obviously had a really good season, and throughout most of SBT and your career in here, throughout the 6 seasons, you've always placed really high up on the divisions, the division standings, and you already have 2 championships. So, it's okay if you lose one more. It's not the end of the world if you give someone else the championship. But Tyler, I'm gonna hand it off to you. What do you think about this this match with Eagle versus Beater here?
Going back on this season's match, Eagle obviously won, but like we said, like we've discussed earlier before we actually started recording, Eagle won because Beater forgot that lightning rod Alola whack was a thing, and he got kind of destroyed by the thing.
Oh wow.
So that was unfortunate. But now that Beater got this reminder in this video, and he might actually remember before prepping, this might be a different outcome. But I'm still gonna have to go with Eagle on this one.
Eagle on this one, right? Yeah, it's for sure. It's tough to see because for one thing, Beater, another veteran in just the SBT in general, and of course, he was in a league with us three together before SBT started, and he made it to semifinals there, or sorry, he made it to finals there. So a really good coach, of course. This time around, I think he almost didn't make playoffs this time, but I think with him making blunders like that, like it's just a 1 in a million chances that he kind of forgets things like that. He's always really good with his prep. But I think I am going to agree with Tyler. I'm going to go with Eagle on this one as well, just because it's kind of hard not to vote for the two-time champion of SBT. So yeah, I'm going to go with Eagle there. And of course,
I appreciate the vote of confidence, guys.
No, you know what? Scratch that. I'm going to go with Beater.
But Eagle is still a bad player.
Yeah, he's still pretty bad.
For myself, I'll not put in the prediction, but I think it's interesting to note that I made some changes towards the end of the season as well. So it's going to be, there's a lot of mons that are different, and sometimes that's, like, I'm not going to talk about a matchup, but it could be, change those changes could like either be worse for my team against him or better. So it's going to change I think the moves are going to change the entire dynamic of the match. So I don't think the first match is going to matter too much in this. So I think it's going to be a fun match.
Yeah, I think so too. It's either way, like all of these coaches, they don't get promoted or demoted, so there's not a lot like riding on the line. Of course, the only thing that really matters is the championship. So if you guys can make it all the way up there, I'm really anticipating to see who's gonna win these matches here, because I have to face the lowest seed. And if it does end up being Beater, then that'll be interesting, because in my entirety I've never beaten Beater before. So I think it's going to be a really good playoff round one. And thank you guys, Tyler and Eagle, for helping me out with this playoff overview. And I hope the coaches also get something out of this as well if they're watching, because we've had a really good season, and we kind of want to end it off with a high note. But playoff round one, I hope you guys are excited for this. Tyler, Eagle, if you want to sign off or you have anything else to say, go ahead and right now.
No, I don't have much else to say. Just say that you'll have to get to work after this.
Oh, okay.
To start editing.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's gonna be. Well, thank you first of all for all the coaches for playing this season. I think that's first and foremost. We couldn't do it with all of you guys, and best of luck next season. Oh well, best of luck for the coaches in playoffs right now, and best of luck for the remaining seasons for the other coaches. And yeah, it's gonna be that for me.
Like I said in my announcement, guys, just make sure you guys actually fill in the evaluation form / app for next season before playoffs end if you haven't already. Filling that form pretty much guarantees you a legacy coach spot if you decide to come back. And like I said earlier, there's not going to be any freebies if you don't submit one of those forms before playoffs end. You're gonna fall back into the application pool, and it's going to be harder to come back for next season. And to close that out, may the Hacks Gods be with all the playoff coaches during the following weeks.
May the Hacks Gods be with us all. Yeah. Okay, guys. So thank you again. And, if you like all this content, please let us know in the comments, or just DM us in the server. We love all the feedback. And yeah, thanks again for a great season. So that's gonna be us signing off. Peace out, guys.